Hello everyone, and welcome to episode 34 of the Anatomy of Knitting podcast. My name is Erin, and I'm going to be your host. Today is St. Patrick's Day. It's March 17th, 2012, and I've got a lot to talk to you about because it's been, I think, about 3 weeks since I last recorded. This week's episode will include a bit of thanks. I'll talk about what's been on the needles. I'll talk about items I've finished, I'll talk about a little bit of spinning, and then I'll talk about some stash enhancement. And this week it's actually real stash enhancement. So let's get started. So a bit of thanks. This week I'd like to give 3 people thank yous for the iTunes reviews. I'd like to thank Stacy M., Karen and Dolly, and L. Panky for their iTunes reviews. And then I'd also like to thank Paula from the Knitting Pipeline podcast. I was listening to that this morning as I was getting ready to make some food to eat. And she talked about how I've transitioned to a video podcast in her episode 82. I really enjoy listening to Paula's podcast. If you aren't familiar with it, and I don't know why you would be familiar with my podcast and not hers, because hers is so good. I totally and completely recommend listening to her podcast. And then if you hear something down there, I have another co-star. This is Ari. He insists on checking everything out. So take a listen to Paula. She's an excellent podcaster, and I have to admit that one of my favorite parts of her podcast is the nature notes. So I totally recommend hers. So what's on the needles? First off, I've been watching the little preview videos that I've been having, and I've noticed that it's a beautiful spring day here in Seattle, and I've noticed that I'm getting the line from the blinds on my face occasionally. I'm just gonna do my best to try and avoid that. Otherwise, I'm gonna ignore it, and hopefully it's not that annoying, but it's sun, and I can't complain about sun here in Seattle. So, on the needles, the first thing that I'm going to talk about is my Dark and Stormy cardigan, and this is the cardigan that I'm knitting out of the Stonehenge Fiber Mill Shepherd's Wool in purple, and I knit this on my signature US 7s. And so I have finished the entirety of the knitting. I finished the beautiful collar treatment and the button bands. The only thing that I haven't done, see, there's the beautiful button band there. I feel like Vanna. The only thing that I haven't done is installed the buttons, and that's mostly been because of my startitis that I've had this week, or the past few weeks, to be more accurate. I've been thinking about doing the backing button band with the ribbon, and I don't have a wide enough ribbon right now that will work. So if I'm going to do that, I need to make a trip to like Joann's, and then I'm gonna try this on so you can kind of see what it looks like on. The sleeves are a little long. I don't really mind long sleeves. I tend to always kind of turn my cuffs down like this. So that's what it looks like. I can get it. And I'm thinking about just kind of tacking down the shawl collar because it always tends to flip up on me. So that's what it looks like on. It's super nice and soft. I blocked it using my soak wash, so it smells delicious. And it's nice and warm, and it's perfect in time for our warming up of our spring. So I probably won't get to wear it for a little bit, and so I'm gonna have to just find a nice ribbon for the front button band so I can put those nice those big enamel buttons that I had. So yeah, that's the sweater, and I just have to get the motivation to sew in the buttons. Wish me luck. So I'll take this off. Trying to think if there's anything else that I would like to talk about this. The pattern was really easy. I didn't have any problems with it. There was no errata that I had seen, and I really enjoyed doing this cable detailing on the back that you can see. So that's that. Hopefully I'll be wearing it for the next podcast because I finally got over my laziness and installed the buttons. So that's that. And I've got my show notes here, so I'm just going to check things off as I talk about them. The next item that I've been knitting are my work socks, or one pair of work socks that I've been doing. Let's see, when I finished the Cylon socks, these are the ones that I cast on to replace it, and I am using Lana Grossa. Oh goodness, I'm going to butcher this. My German is so awful. Meilenweit. Trying to not put that too close so you can see it. I purchased this yarn in Berlin towards the end of my Germany trip that I took with my husband. Not this past winter, but the previous winter, so winter of 2010. My mom, so when we went, my husband and I and my parents ended up trying to overlap our trips a little bit. My husband and I left first, and then my parents left about a week later, and then were supposed to join us, but there was this huge snowstorm, and our trips ended up not overlapping as much as we'd hoped. But we did get a day together in Berlin before my husband and I had to leave. So my mom and I ended up going in Berlin, and we found a yarn store that was within walking distance of the hotel, and I purchased this skein of yarn along with, I think, maybe one or two others. And so I knit a pair of, or a singular sock out of it so far, and you'll see that it kind of goes from this like acidy green to a hot pink to this turquoisey blue to a purple, and I haven't really figured out if there's a set pattern. It seems to be kind of random when you have these like singular rows of color, but so far I really like it. The only thing that I don't like is that the yarn itself feels kind of, I'll say, rustic. It's not scratchy per se. Yeah, it's not really that scratchy, but it's just not super nice to work with. So I ended up getting this skein knit, and I used US ones to knit this sock. And I just wasn't super keen to cast on the second sock, so I ended up actually casting on another pair of socks. Or I guess it's still just singular sock right now. So that's that one, and I'll put that away. What I did end up replacing that sock with, to just have a nicer knitting experience, is I ended up taking this with me when my husband and I went to Disneyland to celebrate my birthday, which was super awesome. And I'll just say something, a little something about that. We ended up, I don't know if you all are aware of any of the Disney blogs or anything like that. We weren't when we scheduled our trip. My birthday is on March 1st, and because it was a leap year, I had to wait an extra day. And I always like to complain a little bit when it's a leap year because, you know, I feel it right away. So Disney, both Walt Disney World, the Magic Kingdom there, and then Disneyland decided to keep their doors open for 24 hours. So from 6 a.m. February 29th to 6 a.m. March 1st, Disneyland was open. So my husband and I ended up going on that day. We went from about 9 o'clock-ish to 4. We ended up going back to our hotel and took a nap, and then went back to the park from about 9 p.m. until I think it was about 2:30. We were standing and Disneyland was like insanely busy. I think they broke the record for the amount of attendance that they had that day, like ever. And we were waiting in line. They decided to make some certain like leap day meal items, and there was one place that was offering a hot dog with macaroni and cheese and bacon bits on top, which, you know, hot dogs are not my favorite food, but macaroni and cheese is, and I wanted to try and experience this, but we were standing in line for a half hour and had moved maybe about 2 feet, and it sounds like Disney World, or Disneyland, I think Disney World was okay, but Disneyland did not prepare for the Leap Day celebrations, and they like totally bare-boned their staffing, which, you know, is kind of a crappy thing to do. I was kind of complaining when we were there, like, you know, this is ridiculous and blah, 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 but when I had found out that the management had totally bare-boned the staffing, I totally felt for those people, because I know how it feels to be completely overwhelmed with, I think there was like 55,000 people at Disneyland that day, being so completely overwhelmed with people, and they get cranky because they're on vacation and they have to wait, and this Disneyland did a great job for the amount of staff that they had. So anyway, while I was there, I had finished the one Lana Grossa sock, and then I decided to cast on another sock using, let's see, this is Alchemy Juniper in Autumn Ecstasy, which is a colorway that I got from the Loopy U, I think it was their sock club, when they were still doing that. I don't think they do that anymore. This is a nice, cushy yarn. It is like a multi-ply, let's see. Goodness, it's got, I think it's like 8 plies altogether. And it's just a nice squishy yarn. So I ended up casting on this sock while we were there at Disneyland, and it's just my usual 1x1 ribbing, stockinette stitch cuff, slip stitch heel, normal gusset, nothing special there, and then stockinette foot and my little like wedge toe. So I've got one sock completely done, and then I have cast on the second sock. This is now my current work knitting. I'll go back to the Lana Grossa sock when I finish this. I think I'm about 2 rows left to finish on the gusset, and then I'll knit the foot. So I've got, the past couple of weeks haven't been great knitting weeks at work, so I haven't gotten that much done at work, but, you know, hopefully next week will be better. Yeah, so that's that. And I'm knitting this using the US 1 needles, and these are the Knit Picks Fixed Circulars. These tend to be the sock needles that I use the most. I think all of the socks that I've shown you on my video podcast, I've knit them using these needles. These are my go-to sock needles. So that's that one. Next in the queue of all the stuff I've been knitting. And you'll hear I have a chibi and a pair of scissors in here, and you're hearing that. So I'm going to mark off the 2 socks that I've talked about. The next item I have in my Camp Kip goodie bag that I got last year. I'm using my US, let's see, 7s, although you won't see the 7s on the project that I have. I'm knitting this using Jaeger Extra Fine Merino. This is the DK weight. I have had this in my stash, goodness, a long time. They actually have sticker labels from, price labels from Skeins Limited, which is a yarn store that was in Bellevue, Washington, which then got bought out by, it's the Queen Anne. I'm having a brain fart. There used to be a Queen Anne store that decided to branch out, and they ended up buying Skeins, and then they are out of business now. So this is so old that this predates my husband. I actually was dating somebody else when I bought this yarn. So it's very, very, what do they say about wine? It's matured, it's gotten more, you know, it's just matured. It's mature stash. So what I've been knitting, and this is going to look kind of crazy, it's called the Dunedin Vest, and this is a design by Amy Herzog. And what it is it's, I don't have a print out here. So it's got these twisted cable stitches that you can see here. So it's got those details up the front, and then it breaks into a V-neck vest. And then on the back, it's completely stockinette stitch, and then on the bottom it's got that twisted cable. And the construction of this vest is pretty interesting. So for the back, which I finished and is blocking downstairs on my blocking board, you knit the cable, the twisted cable band, horizontally, and then you knit that to a certain width, and then once you finish with that, you end up casting that off and then picking up stitches on the top edge, and then you knit in stockinette stitch, you know, all up the back. And then once you shape the armholes, and then you get to a certain height from the armhole, you know, up to here, you cast off the middle stitches and then knit this really thin stockinette stitch bit, which ends up being on your shoulders. Which sounds kind of weird, but the next step in the knitting of the vest is that you cast on the twisted cable band. You knit down this way, you do short rows and make a 90-degree turn, and then you knit across, which will end up being across your back, this band of the twisted cable again, and then you do another set of short rows and then make another 90-degree turn up here. So you create this like square U piece. Those two items are blocking downstairs. I can take a, you know what I'll do? I will take a picture and I will include it in the podcast. And I know how to do this. It's pretty awesome. You can go, bing! I can be totally Vanna. I don't know where exactly it's going to be within the frame, but I know I can make it up there. So those are the pieces. And then for the front part of the vest, you knit 2 more of the twisted horizontal cable. Once you finish those 2 pieces, you end up casting on this middle part here, and then you, once you get a certain height of that middle casted part, you pick up stitches along the top of the cable there. So as you can see when I unroll this, it ends up being the width of that horizontal cable, and I need like 4 arms to show you this. So when I'm all done, I will end up mattress stitching these 2 edges together. So it'll look like that. I made a complete fail with this. The version that I had downloaded on my computer, and the way that I do these digital PDF patterns is I will download the pattern to my computer. I will open up the entirety of the pattern on the computer, and then I will print out any cable charts so I can, you know, mark on the cable charts or use a 3x5 card to show where I am on the cable charts. And the version of the pattern that I had downloaded onto my computer, I discovered was not the latest pattern. She has updated it, and apparently there was some errata. and what the pattern that I had downloaded said was use the smallest needle to cast on this section of the cable, and then you use the small needle to knit the entirety of the front, which I knew, like, in my head, I was like, this does not make sense. Why would you knit the back with one set of needles and then the front with the entire different set of needles? Like, I could understand using it to make a smaller part on the button band, or not the button band, but the hem. I can totally understand using smaller needles on that, but, you know, and I knew this. I was reading through the rest of the pattern that I had downloaded on my computer, and I was like, okay, when do I switch to the other set of needles? Because these are US 6s, and I've been using US 7s for the rest of the vest. Well, it wasn't until I was getting ready for bed last night, and I was reading on my iPad. I had downloaded Isolde Teague's Little Red in the City to my iPad to read, you know, all the tips and techniques before the patterns. She has like a big chunk of the book devoted to, you know, learning how to knit sweaters that will best fit you. And as I was downloading that to my iPad, I had the Dunedin vest opened up on the iPad, and I noticed that the formatting was different, and I remembered seeing that Amy Herzog had updated the pattern to be more in tune with the rest of her patterns. I guess she's going with a more streamlined layout and just the same formatting for all of her patterns. And it had happened to be actually on the page that I was on in the other pattern, you know, where it details how to do the front part of the vest. And I was reading it, and I had noticed it said, cast on this part with the larger needles. So, all the progress that I got done yesterday, which is really not that much, which is this part here, and then this stockinette portion on top of the horizontal cables, I am going to rip out. And actually, I might rip out now as I'm talking to you about it. So I'm going to remove all my stitch markers. I'll have to redo all of that, but on the larger needles, it's not going to be a big deal because it goes a lot faster. So, hooray for fast knitting. It was really uncomfortable knitting just the stockinette stitch portion with the smaller needles, and it just was not a pleasant experience as it was knitting everything on the larger needles. So, learn from my fail. Always make sure that you have the most recent version downloaded to your computer that you're referencing when you knit the pattern. And the Ravelry library feature is super awesome in showing you that you have updates, if that's where you've bought the pattern. So always make sure that you have the most recent update. Because you don't want to have to do what I'm doing right now. Unless you have to. Anyway, I has a sad. And I will eventually use these needles, and that's to knit the, I think, hem facings, to make sure that those, I know you'll have noticed that the twisted hem part likes to, you know, roll up, so I will use those smaller needles to knit a hem facing so it lies flat. So, here we go. I'm doing it live on air. Sad. Wah, wah. So, that's that. That is the Dunedin vest, and that, yep, I covered everything that I had wanted to with that, so I will check that off. And then the next thing that I am in the process of researching how to knit is a vest for my mom. And my parents were in town last weekend. I think my father had a retirement party that he needed to go to in downtown Seattle, and so they decided to stay here with my husband and I. And while my mom was here, I was like, would you like to go, there's a tea room that we have called the Queen Mary, and that's in kind of the U district area. Oh look, I finished that ball of yarn. So there's those hem pieces. So she and I decided to go to the tea room, and when we got back from visiting the tea room, she had she turned to me and she said, "Hey, Erin, you know, I've really been wanting to," because I was showing her, you know, the vest that I was knitting. She said, "So I've been kind of wanting a nice spring vest. Do you think you can make me one?" And when my mom asks me for knitting, I will jump at the chance because I love knitting my mom things. So we went through the Ravelry pattern search thing on Ravelry, where you can put in all sorts of specific things. So she wanted a vest, she wanted a V-neck vest, and she wanted it to be textured. So I put in all of those details, and we found a whole bunch of patterns, and then so I queued the ones that she had liked, and then once I had those queued ones, and we had gone through looking at most of the patterns, she and I then went to my queue and then just looked at all of the ones that she had liked best, and then she decided on which one that she'd like me to knit. And the one, I'm going to bend out of frame here, unfortunately. The one that she wanted me to knit is from the Winter 2008 Interweave Knits. It's on page 127. That's the pattern. The pictures, oop, there it is. The pictures are on page 60, and this is the Washington Square vest. There. Hopefully you can see that pretty well. It's a V-neck vest, and then it's got a cable textured pattern around the waist there. And then it's got a nice lace edging on the front part, the front V-neck part, and then it goes around the back, and then it goes down to the hem. So that's the pattern, and then she and I were looking at all of the finished ones, and she found there was one that used this colorway of Cascade 220, and this is Cascade 220 Heathers in the Lake Chelan colorway, and it's this nice, it's got a blue, it's got this kind of acidy green, heathered color, and so she wanted this color. She wanted a nice spring color. So that's the swatch that I made. The needles that this recommends are US 5s, which is what I made the swatch out of. And this is the skein of yarn here. It's been in the sun, it's nice and warm. So that's that. And so I've knit the swatch on US 5s just to make sure, and then I washed this in soak. It doesn't really smell like the soak, it just smells like wool, which is delicious. So I'm going to try and finish the vest that I'm making for myself, and then I'm going to move on to her vest. So depending on how long that vest takes, I might end up kind of knitting both at once. So that's the swatch. And let's see, I told you all of the stuff here. And then this is colorway 9451. And this is a pattern that's designed by Simona Merchant Dest. And that's MERCHANT-Dest. So that's that, and those are all the things that I have been knitting on. That's the stuff that's all on the needles, and we'll move on next to what's off the needles. So I have two items off of the needles this episode. The first thing you all will remember from my last episode, and that's the Multnomah shawl. And I seriously did block this, and I seriously stretched it as much as I could, but looks like it's kind of gone back to its pre-blocking size. So the wingspan's, you know, nice and big, but I kind of stretched it a little more so it would be more like that. But whatever, that's garter stitch. This is a pattern by Kate Ray. I believe it's a free pattern that she has. I knit this on US 3 using Shalimere Yarns Breathless in the blue raspberry colorway. And I knit this following all of the directions. And I tend to wear it more like this. And it's nice. The yarn is so yummy. It's merino, cashmere, and silk yarn. So it's nice and soft. And I really like the way it turned out other than the size. I kind of wish it was a little bit bigger. But, you know, what can you do? So that's the Multnomah shawl. I'm trying to think if there's anything else. Yeah, nothing really that I can talk about that I didn't talk about last time. Just a nice easy pattern. And I believe Kate has on her website directions on how to make it bigger if you have more yarn. I just had the one skein of the Breathless, so I decided to keep it as written. So that's that. And then the next item is a pattern on Ravelry. I believe it's also a paid-for pattern. On Ravelry it's called the Big Green Cowl, but I named mine the Big Red Cowl. Ooh. This is a pattern that's designed by Shannon Squire, and I knit mine out of my Himalaya Yarn Duke Silk. That's 100% silk yarn. I knit using 2 skeins and a US 10 needle. I made mine slightly larger. The way the pattern directs it, I'm going to have to hold it this way so I can show you. The way the pattern directions go is that when you knit it, I made mine more symmetrical from this eyelet ridge in the middle, but the way that the pattern tells you how to do it is that you take out this wide piece of knitting, and then you just make the short piece on the end, you know, so the cowl will end right about here where my fingers are. I had more than enough yarn to knit this, so I decided to make it more symmetrical. So you can wear it either as a big cowl this way, or as more of an infinity cowl, like so. And it's so luxurious to have that 100% silk next to your neck. So I just finished this not too long ago before I start knitting the Dunedin vest, and I decided to knit this because it was after I had finished the Dark and Stormy cardigan. I've got this like, oh, apparently it's in my glasses, there's a cat hair. So after I finished the Dark and Stormy cardigan, I wanted to knit a sweater, but I was kind of having this, I couldn't really decide on the next pattern that I wanted to knit for a sweater, so I decided to knit some accessories. So I had cast on the Multnomah shawl, and then when that was all done, I had to find something else. And so I had purchased this yarn, this silk yarn, in Florida when I had gone on vacation in December. So I decided to find something I could use that for. So I decided to make this nice, big, luxurious cowl. And I know these infinity cowls have been kind of the in thing, but this is my first one that I've done. And I really like the way it's turned out. I can kind of see the reflection again in the computer there. So those are my 2 finished objects, and I anticipate that there should be more with the next episode. Fingers crossed. So with spinning, I haven't really done as much as I've done in the past. I ended up finishing another bobbin of the Cormo fleece that I have on my Matchless. I've spun a little bit more of the Border Leicester Cross that's down on the Hanson Mini Spinner. And then the Knitmore girls have announced what they're calling a spackle. Yeah, I think it's a spackle, which is a spin-along, knit-along. They have announced the sweater pattern, which I don't remember offhand. Let me go look on their group. I do know that it's a Twist Collective pattern, and I believe it's from the Fall Twist Collective. Okay, so I'm on their podcast group, and I'm finding the spackle. And I'm going to find Jasmine's posts. So she has, so it's the Eden pattern, which is spelled E-A-D-O-N, and it is in the Fall 2011 Twist Collective. And it's a ribbed sweater, and then it has cable details on the sleeve and on the front of it. So it's really pretty, and I recommend that you go take a look at it. I've been trying to decide which fleece that I'm going to use to join in on the spackle, and I have two merinos that I think will work pretty well. And I bought them both during Last Sheep's last year, which is what I was going to say. Last year's Black Sheep Gathering. And they're both sort of a marled brown. They're mostly a brown fleece with some white in it. So when it's all processed and pin drafted together, it's this nice, like, kind of an oatmeal-y brown. So Christine from the Yarnings podcast, she made me this little sheep, and it's kind of like this. So you can see, like, it's a main brown, but it's got some white in it, so it makes it kind of marly brown. And so those are what the fleeces kind of look like. I think she got that from some roving, and she made us all little sheep for Madrona. So that's what's been going on with spinning. Not that much, but you know, a good amount. So the last thing that I'm going to talk about is some stash enhancement. And it's real stash enhancement this time. I have two things to share with you. The first thing is my husband ended up going to Colorado right before we went to Disneyland for his work. And he had a car so he could go drive around Colorado if he wanted. And he decided to try and find a yarn store while he was there. So he went to Fancy Tiger Crafts, which is, I hope you can see that. He ended up, and he has asked me why I haven't shown this yet, and I was like, you know, I need to podcast first. So he got me a few things there. The first thing he got is this cute little sheep, and it's a tape measure. And this is the thing he's mainly been like, why haven't you used this yet? And I told him I wanted to keep it nice and pristine while, you know, I hadn't podcasted yet, because I wanted to show off the cool things that he had gotten me. So, cute little tape measure. So cute. So that's one thing that he got me. He ended up getting a skein of Cascade Yarns Pure Alpaca in this nice bright, vivid magenta. It's nice and soft. And then he ended up purchasing 2 skeins of Spud & Chloe Fine, in which is their kind of sock base that they have. And it's 80% superwash wool, 20% silk. And I think he did a really great job picking out the colors. I think these will make some really awesome stripy socks. The yardage on this is only about 248 yards. So one skein, I think he kind of purchased these two with the idea that each of them would be a pair of socks. I've since schooled him on checking the yardage of the skein that he's purchasing. I think with both we can only get one pair of socks, because I told him these would make awesome stripy socks. So I'm kind of thinking of doing that with this. It's so pretty. So pretty and yummy. So I think he did a pretty good job. This is the first time he's bought me yarn without having any sort of input from me. So I think he did a pretty good job. Don't you? So that's that. And then this is their business card. And I'll put the information at the bottom where you can find them online. They do have an Etsy store, I know, for a few things that they sell. So that's Stash Enhancement 1. And then Stash Enhancement number 2, I was kind of searching for things. You know, every year I like to buy myself something for my birthday just to kind of treat myself. And I'd seen this pattern before, and I didn't know that there was a kit for it. But I was watching 90% Knitting. And I've tried to catch up on her video podcast. I think I'm still kind of in the December podcasts right now. And she had gone online and purchased this kit here. And this is the Sheep Hide kit. I think that's how you pronounce it. It's H-E-I-D. Sheep Hide. Maybe it's Sheep Head, but I don't know. This is a kit from Jamieson & Smith. You'll see there. It has, let's see, 9 skeins of yarn, and it's kind of all the natural colors of the Shetland sheep, and it's a Fair Isle tam style hat, and it's got sheep there, and then it's got ram's heads up at the top, and it's just this cute hat. So I'm planning, once I finish my Dunedin vest and my mom's vest, that this will be the next thing on the needles. And I do believe the pattern, when you buy the kit, the pattern comes with it. Yep. So, yes, it uses 3mm needles, and it should use less than 25 yards of each of the 9 natural sheep shades. So I'm going to have a lot of yarn left over. So my mom's probably going to get one of these, and maybe I'll knit one for our lucky listener, depending on how much yarn I have. So, let's see if I can get that pattern to get back in. That's that. And these skeins have 188 yards, so I've got a ton of yarn to knit. So that's my birthday present to myself. Like that. So, that's all the stash enhancement that I have. I'm gonna skip using giving you all a tool here, because I actually had some real stash enhancement. I've been trying to find a yarn that I can use for the Harmonios ring sweater that I showed you all last time. I ended up going to a couple of yarn stores. Why was I downtown? I was downtown. Oh no, I was doing a mentoring thing with one of my coworkers from work, and after that I decided I'm gonna go check out a couple of yarn stores because I want to do some retail therapy. But I ended up not being able to find anything, which is so weird for me. So I'm trying to spend money to show you guys stuff in the stash enhancement section, but it's not working. So that's everything with the stash enhancement. So next time will be another tool. So that's it for this episode. I hope you all enjoyed it. I honestly don't know how long I've been talking. So we'll see how it goes when I upload all the video to my computer. I'm going to try a different way of post-processing this so it makes a smaller file. I know I've gotten a few responses on the Ravelry group, but some people haven't been able to watch the video. And so I'm going to try doing a different way of processing it. I'm going to use one of the modes in iMovie, so more devices can use it. So hopefully the video quality won't go down that much. I'm hoping not. But again, this is a whole like work in progress type of thing. I'm gonna maybe go back to the previous way of processing it if the quality is not what I want it to with this new post-processing. So we'll see. Also, I'm hoping that with this other way of condensing the file down, I'll be able to podcast more often. I'd like to do at least every other week, maybe even once a week video podcasting, but it all depends on how much space I have. So we'll have to see. So I will see you all next time, and I hope you have a great week or two. And so I'll talk to you later. Bye.